I mean, I haven't been to church in some time, but is that what the sermons are like these days? Have things progressed a little bit since my day? And the Lord saith, should aliens ever take over the rest of the human race and enslave us, and there's only a few of us, still should the name of that child be sacred within your womb. Remember this. If they cannot see a thing, if they are blind to the world, and yet they can hear, remember, do not have the children. I don't know if you heard about this, but Ben Shapiro has a new movie out. Yes, it's Die Hard meets school shooting, which sounds like a weird idea. Apparently, they killed a real deer to film that film, to make it realistic. But Mr. Shapiro decided he wanted to get into the whole movie-making biz because apparently, you know, the liberal elites that control the media are pushing narratives on our children. I mean, you want to go to a movie, but every single movie is just about woke culture, and we can't have that, right? So now we have an alternative. Now we can watch Ben Shapiro's movies, but apparently there's actually already conservative movies in mainstream media, and we didn't know it the whole time. They did a trick on us. They've been fooling us. They've been indoctrinating us this whole time. So popular Hollywood movies that are accidentally conservative.
Be talking about why so many of your favorite movies are secretly conservative. Just want to give a shout out to our friends over at Raycon for sponsoring.
Oh God, wow, 6 seconds in, you couldn't hold it in. All right.
Who doesn't love John Krasinski? It makes sense. There's lots to love about John Krasinski.
He loves the CIA. I love the CIA. You love the CIA. Everyone loves the CIA. CIA can only do good. So John Krasinski.
People love The Office. Everybody loves Jim. And of course, he made a delightful little at-home news show that went viral during the pandemic. He's the type of dude that seems to resonate with Americans of all types. I think one of the reasons why people like him is because of the not-so-obvious conservative values in some of his movies, particularly in A Quiet Place. And that got me thinking about some other Hollywood projects that have some kind of sneaky, under-the-radar conservative qualities that happen to be widely celebrated by the left, unintentionally. I'm going to show you what I mean with a few really recent movies. The endings of these movies...
Wait, was that not intentional? Did you hear? He just it sounded like he just got a little bit more bro out of nowhere. I'm going to show you what I mean. It could just be in my head. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into this. This is petty, by the way.
I'm going to show you what I mean with a few really recent movies. The endings of these movies are the parts that best exemplify the values. So I'm just warning it out. These are big spoilers for all of the movies we're about to discuss. If you don't want to know what happens, jump ahead to the next film that you've already seen, or jump all the way ahead to the part where I tell you why so many movies generally are conservative, even though they don't mean to be. Let's start with A Quiet Place. A Quiet Place was released to overwhelmingly positive reviews. John DeFore from Hollywood Reporter said, quote, scenes of what passes for...
That movie, I recommend everyone go watch the YMS review of that movie. Because I'm sure when you watch it on your own, you're going to be like, well, that's very asinine. But if you watch the YMS review, you'll probably get some more laughs out of it. But I was definitely thinking a handful of the things that YMS ended up pointing out, which was that, okay, just there's going to be a light spoiler here. A light. This is very light. It's just basically going to explain one thing. And if you don't know the plot already, it's basically about that there's these monsters, but they find you via sounds. They're all blind, so if you make any noise, then the monsters will come get you. So hopefully you never ever have a stomach ache or you fart or anything like that, because otherwise you'll get eaten alive by these monsters. But anyways, at one point, the son brings the father to this river, this brook, and this is the first time the two of them can speak at a normal volume. In fact, they can do whatever they want. They can start to scream. They're screaming there because they're like, it's so liberating to be able to do this. And I was like, why the fuck did you not move your whole family there? You have a water source and you can do whatever the fuck you want. You can be as loud as you want. Why is it just I want to take you to my special place. Oh, okay, cool. Oh, neat. It's a place where we're safe all the time and we don't have to worry about anything and we have a water source. All right. Well, let's go back to the existential nightmare that is our lives and then just live in fear for the rest of the movie. That sounds good too. Yeah, one than the other.
For ordinary life, let the screenplay focus on mom and dad's attempts to educate their son and daughter while never letting them forget how dangerous their lives are. One thinks of what we hear from parents of black boys, raising them to be normal and happy, but hyper-vigilant about the way they are perceived by others. That's a pretty wild and deep read right there from the Hollywood Reporter.
This is a black thing, isn't it?
The box office on this movie, enormous. It was a very low-budget film. It made $340 million at the box office, numbers that are not going to be paralleled in the new post-COVID era. For those who haven't seen the movie, there's a family that has to live in silence because there are these mysterious aliens that hunt by sound. So any sound draws the aliens, knowing that even the slightest whisper or footstep can bring death. Evelyn and Lee, those are the parents, are determined to find a way to protect their kids while desperately searching for...
Yeah, you gotta love that, eh? As soon as there's a parallel to the modern world, he's like, kind of a weird read. Why would anyone bring that up?
The very beginning of the film, this isn't really a spoiler, it's literally in the first 3 minutes of the film. They have a very young child. They are trying to walk into town to get food in this post-apocalyptic era, and the little kid basically gets eaten by an alien. So now, mom and dad have to decide, are they gonna have more kids? And they do. They get pregnant. They decide to have the kid, despite the fact that it puts everybody at risk. There was some flack out there for Emily Blunt's character being with child in a horror apocalyptic setting, but those reactions missed.
Oh my God, he's gonna turn this into the abortion debate, isn't he? That's why this movie is secretly conservative. I didn't know, but it's pro-life. The whole movie is actually pro-life. That's it.
The actual deeply profound nature of the story. The entire concept of the film is rooted in the risk that is going to take place in the last third of the film when mom actually has the baby. This is about the idea that even when you have a pretty good reason not to have a kid, you should still have a kid and take life-altering risk in order to have that kid. So unintentionally, the movie's incredibly pro-life. Okay, but that is not the only mainstream Hollywood film that has received all sorts of critical plaudits.
So let me get this right. If aliens take over the Earth, limited resources, can't make any noise, even then, under strange circumstances, you should have kids. Remember that. Conservative. Very conservative. Wow. I mean, I haven't been to church in some time, but is that what the sermons are like these days? Have things progressed a little bit since my day? And the Lord saith, should aliens ever take over the rest of the human race and enslave us, and there's only a few of us, still should the name of that child be sacred within your womb. Remember this. If they cannot see a thing, if they are blind to the world, and yet they can hear, remember, do not have the children.
Audits, and is actually pretty conservative. Hey, how about Soul? So Soul just came out. This is the new
I'm sorry, everybody. I haven't seen Soul, and I really want to. And he said there's spoilers in all of these, so I don't want to learn yet about how Soul is
people who have made it, I'm not sure realize that, but it just is. Arrival. That's another film that received overwhelmingly positive reviews.
Oh, no, don't do Villeneuve dirty like this. Come on. He's amazing. He's the best thing to ever come out of Canada. He's our one great thing. And I know he would be like, well, I'm not Canadian. I'm Quebecois. But that's fine. It's come on. It's got to be one of Canada's. It's definitely Canada's. Oof. I don't want to say if he's the greatest living director because there is still. All right. Well, him and Cronenberg. It's got to be him and Cronenberg. Like this. And I'm sorry. Yeah, James Cameron doesn't count.
Reinstein from US Weekly wrote, the sci-fi thriller not only subverts expectations in brilliant ways, it explores deeply felt themes of life, loss, and love. The box office on Arrival, $200 million at the box office, 8 Academy Award nominations, and 1 win. So the Academy is very much into wokeness, right? The Academy loves the woke. So why exactly did they love this film? Why did so many people love this film on the left? That makes no sense when you actually look at the theme of the film. So for those who missed it, the film follows a linguistics professor named Louise Banks. She works with the military to communicate with alien life forms after mysterious spacecraft appear around the world. With nations on the verge of global war, Banks and her crew are racing against time to find a way to communicate with the extraterrestrials. It's a really sophisticated and interesting film. Now, during...
Yeah, and woke as fuck. That's all I kept thinking. Man, really beating me over the head with this woke messaging. Encoded messaging, that is.
In the film, we keep seeing what we think are flashbacks of Louise with her daughter. Right, from birth, through a short childhood, and up until her daughter dies at a young age from a fatal disease. And you think that these are flashbacks, that Louise, because she has experienced this pain, she now has the capacity to speak to the aliens in a different way and see the world in a different way. Okay, but that's not actually what happens in the film. Those are flash forwards. That because Louise is communicating with the aliens, and the aliens have the capacity to see into the future, Louise knows throughout the process that she is going to have a child, and that the child is going to die at an early age.
No
and she knows
way.
that if she gets together with this other guy working with her, who's played by Jeremy Renner, that she's going to have this kid. This kid is going to live, suffer, and then die. And she decides to go through with it anyway. I have not seen a more pro-life message in any movie. One of the great themes of the pro-choice movement is life is not worth living if you are going to have a kid who is going to have some sort of terrible disease, or if you know that the kid's life is going to be cut short in any way, or the kid's going to suffer in any way. It's an inherently pro-life film. I mean, this is a mother making the decision to have a child and give the child the gift of life, knowing that suffering for her and her family is going to follow. Pretty pro-life.
If you could see your whole life.
You gotta be kidding me. Did you just like tune out during the last third of the film? I don't understand. How can yes, fix the future for your children, but at the same time have those kids pro-life? No, that's ours. We got that one. Yeah, that's this. Wow, what a reach.
Would you change things?
Okay, finally, the Florida Project. So the Florida Project is
I
not
haven't seen the Florida
as openly
Project either.
conservative as some of these other films. Now, again, none of the people who made these other films.
I can't comment on this one. I haven't seen He could be completely right because he's been so right already. So I mean, if he's right about the others, he's probably right about the Florida Project.
His/hers cheating boyfriend, who's also her pimp. So obviously, this is not a conservative person. The Florida Project follows a woman named Haley who lives with her 6-year-old daughter Mooney in a motel catered to the Walt Disney.
Oh wait, I'm gonna skip ahead. Sorry, everybody. Sorry if you want to learn why the Florida Project was deeply conservative. I still kind of want to see that movie. Oh, by the way, I can give you a preview. It was because of abortion, because it's pro-life. Yeah, not having seen it, I can still tell you that because the film itself is actually secretly pro-life. It's pro-life messaging all around. You didn't know that, but that's deeply conservative. Can I interrupt this for 2 seconds and say that pro-life, that idea. That is left as well. No one on the left wants people to have abortions. No one's like, yeah, no, I'm pro-abortion. There's no one is in the pro-abortion camp. Like there is no group that's pro-abortion. Like everyone is pro-life. We want people to live. And I mean, it's unusual. Conservatives pro-life kind of only extends to like fetuses. It doesn't extend to people on death row or things like that. Then we're no longer pro-life. Okay. Then all of a sudden we want the state to be able to execute whoever we want. We're just for pro-women's autonomy. That's it. And trans men. We're for women and trans men to have autonomy over their own bodies. That's the argument. But it's not like. And at the same time, I'm really hoping for some abortions. Oh, nice! The Dark Knight Rises. I am ready. My body's ready for this.
Right, Dark Knight Rises is an obvious one. Lord of the Rings films are very conservative. Death of Stalin is very conservative. I can't
Go on. Explain, please.
believe that any of the people who made those films
Like, what? Is it? Of course, Lord of the Rings, definitely. I mean, both the books and the film. I mean, maybe it wasn't as translated as properly to the film, but is he going to give? I bet it's the Dave Rubin answer, because Dave Rubin was pushing why Lord of the Rings was actually it's libertarian because it's about the individual. You know, it's about a journey and one person's journey and how they actually had to get to the end of Mordor to destroy the One Ring. But really, it was just Frodo. Frodo's journey, and it's him overcoming everything. And then you're like, yeah, what's the name? What's the name of that? Is it the Fellowship? Like, it's in the fucking name. They do it as a group. He needs help from other people.
So why do filmmakers in Hollywood keep making films with conservative themes that contradict their actual political ideology? And why do liberals in Hollywood keep responding to the conservative themes? Well, here is the thing. When you look at the structure of story is inherently bent toward conservatism. Why? Because it has to contrast virtue with non-virtue. So start with the Aristotelian idea of the tragic hero. The tragic hero, who's a feature in nearly every piece of content for thousands of years, is a person of virtue who has a tragic flaw. The tragic flaw is exploited and the hero falls. The basic idea there is a couple of things. One, you have a person who actually is virtuous, right? There is a difference between acting virtuously and not acting virtuously. Then the hero has a flaw in his virtue. That flaw leads to his downfall because the world is a fair and just place in which flaws, tragic as they may be, end up condemning and consigning people to bad fates. Right? So there are inherent values in story. Okay? More colloquially and more commonly, people in the entertainment industry tend to circulate around The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell.
I was about to say, I bet he's going to talk about The Hero's Journey and monomyths. And it's entirely true. If you've never read The Hero with a Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell, it's interesting. So much of our mythology as human beings have continued through this pattern, this similar story. It's an arc that you can see, whether it be the Bible all the way up to modern day Hassan Piker. Like there's just this thing known as the hero's journey. I'll prove it. Here, hold on 1 second. 1, the call to adventure. He's already on TYT, but he wants to go and join something new. Tries out Twitch streaming. Supernatural aid. I guess that was Destiny. Threshold guardians. People trying to oppose it. Threshold, the beginning of the transformation. There's the mentor and the helper. And then the challenges and temptations. I think we all know what the temptations are. I don't want to start a whole, drama arc here, so I'm not going to bring that one up. And then the helper comes in. But then the abyss, the death and rebirth. This, of course, the revelation. This probably was the 9/11 Andy moment, right? And then comes the transformation, the atonement, And then Assange became the biggest political streamer of all time. And then The Return, which is The Gift of the Goddess. There you go. Did it. Super easy. The hero's journey. It happens all the time. And now you've seen it.
A book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces, in which he laid out what he thought was sort of the mythic structure. And this is present in nearly every film. The one that most famously it is present in is Star Wars. Right? The entire Star Wars Episode 4 is rooted in the hero's journey. There are a bunch of stuff.
Lance, is this a bit? Because the monomyth is actually garbage of finding any common pattern in mythology. That was a bit. That whole last part was that whole section. That was a bit. I was doing a bit. I don't think Hassan Piker is Jesus. I think he's really talented and good at what he does, but I don't think he's literally Jesus. That would be a weird thing to say. You know.
In order to have heroes, you have to have villains. In order to have heroes and villains, you have to have values. So the idea of a moral relativism in which there is no right and there is no wrong, and we have to understand every side of the story, and every side of the story inherently is kind of like, that is boring. Nobody's all that interested in it, and it doesn't work on film. Then there is the problem in all storytelling of free will.
So Star Wars does follow the hero's journey. Some people just do follow the hero's journey, right? Whether it be whatchamacallit, was the temptation actually upholding the anti-capitalist ideology? It was, Zots. We figured it out. We've known it all along. Star Wars, there are people who base their storytelling upon the hero's journey. They like the arc of it. And then, of course, there are multiple times throughout history when we have a very similar mythology that you'll find, such as the Virgin giving birth to a deity. That deity then is challenged and grows up and then is sacrificed. That is a story that has been told many times throughout human history. That doesn't mean that is the sum total of all stories, right? And there are authors in the modern era who know this now and look upon it and they want to replicate the hero's journey. That part's not a bit.
It turns out that the most boring type of story is one in which you know what is going to happen at the end of the story. And in fact, it is going to happen no matter what the hero does because the hero is not in control. One of
Ben's describing the mystery box. Do you remember that? The mystery box? It turns out the most boring story is the one in which you already know the ending. Well, yeah, I guess. That's like, we hold these truths to be self-evident, Ben. Hold on.
One of the key elements of the hero's journey is that the hero has to take control of his own life, right? He has a hero's journey, a hero's arc, in which he goes from somebody who doesn't want to be involved to somebody who not only is thrust into involvement, but becomes the active participant in his own story. That person is going to have to overcome obstacles. If the obstacles are overcome for him, he's not the hero. If the hero is just faced with the villain, and then the villain collapses because other people from society force that person to back down, the hero's not a hero. The hero is now a passive participant in their own story. Okay? Every movie that you see that has a hero overcoming obstacles, that is about a person who is acting with some form of durability and integrity in the world. Okay, these are all conservative values. They do not hold up to left-wing scrutiny. In fact, even the most left-wing films you've seen are built along these lines. Even ones that are overtly left-wing are built along the lines of there is some oppressor who is trying to stop the hero from...
I think if I understand this correctly, Ben is saying that not only are all stories throughout human history actually conservative, but so are all things. In fact, everything is conservative. There's no such thing as any other political paradigm. There's not even different, let's say, spectrums of political affectation. So at the end of the day, everyone is conservative and everything is conservative. So they win. You're all conservative, chat. Every one of you. You're all conservatives. Everything is conservative. Alpha, Omega, time, space. It's all conservative. Everything. Yeah. The USSR was hella conservative. Yeah. So was China. So was Venezuela. Venezuela's conservative. Cuba, conservative. Everything's conservative. Ants are conservative. You know, milk, conservative. Everything. Just if you name it, if you think of it, you know, the fifth dimension, conservative. Everything's conservative. Yeah. Penguins are conservative. Absolutely. Yeah. String theory, unbelievably conservative. It's all conservative. Yeah. Karl Marx was super conservative. Communism's conservative. Yep. Everything. Rojava, conservative. Vietnam, conservative. Everything. Your dog is conservative, 100%. Leftism is conservative. Everything is. Yeah, that's right. Energy and mass, both conservative. Yep. Physics itself, conservative. Math, so conservative. Oof, doesn't get more conservative than math. Lizards are conservative too. It's all just one rich tapestry. If you want us to advertise your channel or work, please go to weareserfs.com and email us a 20 to 30 second ad, and we'll take it on to the end of one of our videos to help promote your leftist channel or progressive something. Whatever you do.
To our gods, I'm Raft, Xander Corvus, and Schlatsky, we shall build golden idols in your honor. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, you have our undying fealty. To our lords, Jeffrey Lamb, Trevor R., Hans Josephin, C. Bartlett, Jimothy K. Meeple Beeps Jr., Bisexual Black Gamer, and Trofox, we shall carry your banners onto the battlefield. To our Knights of the Round Table, Josh Mickelson, Dylan Byth, Zach Christensen, Todd Buckingham, Todd Lajeunesse, Political Puppy, Jimmy Bignuts, Andreas Chitoro, Good Poon Hates Cops, that's Solid Poon then, Dr. Zayas, Yoppie, Violent Orchard, Sophie Baby, Thomas Barrington, J. Fraser Cartwright, Goofalankius, Melissa Murphy, Nicholas Marks, Alexander Thaler, Ali Rada Jafer, Alex Gauvin, Radical Maniac, The Great Houdini, and Callie Kotka. We salute you.